Today on the AUM podcast, we're sitting down with Lane Chaplin, head of real estate for EVgo. You'll hear how Lane started out going to law school but never practiced in a law firm.
I call it my quarter professional life crisis because I still love law, but it was like, do I want this to be my daily?
How he was tasked with rolling out sites for LA Fitness.
Ended up going on to be the national sports director there internally at corporate.
That's not a real estate position.
Not a real estate position.
And ultimately was responsible for rolling out thousands of supercharger sites for Tesla.
Charging, as we'll talk about more, is a real estate play, but they didn't have anybody that was doing real estate specifically in their org. They asked me to help, and I said, of course, I'd love to do this.
Now at EVgo, he's responsible for entering into strategic partnerships with retail landlords all across the country.
The key piece there that most people don't look at is the utilization of the sites. And what I mean by that is, what is the company's business model?
Interesting.
Is it trying to sell you maintenance agreements? Is it trying to sell you chargers? What is that business model?
And now he's playing a major leadership role at ICSC by sitting on the PAC Management Committee, going to Washington, D.C., and advocating and lobbying for retail landlords, owners, and operators all across the country.
The thing I like about it too is that, EV charging is a part of it, but it's the whole industry. It's, we're advocating for the Targets, for the Kimcos, everybody all at once.
You're not going to want to miss this. Lane Chaplin, thank you for coming in today.
My pleasure.
It's great to see you, sir.
Thank you.
When I think of Lane Chaplin, I literally think of one of the most knowledgeable EV real estate experts in the entire country.
I don't know where you get that notion, but I appreciate it.
I don't think it's an exaggeration, truly. You're presently at EVgo. We're going to talk about that, but I think you really cut your teeth in EV at Tesla. Let's go back.
Yeah.
You're a lawyer by training.
I've got my JD.
You have your JD. Did you ever practice in a law firm?
I never practiced.
You go straight from law school into what?
So that was what I called I call it my quarter professional life crisis.
Okay.
Because long story short is I'm in law school. I do 6 internships.
Okay.
All these different types of law, right? Con law, had an alter ego case I worked on. Ended up clerking for a California Superior Court Justice. I had the wide array of it, but I would say around my 4th one, I still love law, but it was like, do I want this to be my daily?
Right.
Right. And ultimately the answer was, I don't think so. Nothing, wrong with it, but that was just the thing. So long story short is my father-in-law was in the commercial real estate industry.
Okay.
My wife was in it. My brother-in-law was in it. And of course, they were preaching the merits of it to me over and over. And eventually I started listening.
Right.
And so long story short is I was at LA Fitness at the time, I should mention.
Well, so you were at LA Fitness out of law school. You graduated, you said, I'm not going to practice law. You get to LA Fitness. You're doing real estate there, right? How does that happen?
I still try to figure it out sometimes. But I ended up doing part-time clerking for an attorney.
Okay.
And then I needed another part-time, so I got a part-time job at the local gym, which happened to be the corporate gym.
Got it.
Quote unquote, for LA Fitness. Ended up going on to be the national sports director there internally at corporate.
That's not a real estate position.
Not a real estate position.
What are you doing at the gym? I mean, so what are you doing at LA Fitness?
At
literally?
LA Fitness, I was basically running the basketball and the volleyball and racquetball and what have you.
All the tournaments and leagues and everything else.
And all that good stuff.
That's crazy.
But my desk was seated right across from a gentleman named Bill Horner, which I know you know, and that was the real estate department. And so we had developed a relationship. I ended up leaving LA Fitness to go to a boutique brokerage firm for about 2 months. And they called me and said, hey, we've got a SVP of real estate.
LA Fitness called you back.
Called me back and said, he's retiring. Would you like to take over his duties? Not his title, but his after
not his title or his pay,
but
his duties.
It took me literally 3 minutes, and I said, yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. So you're at LA Fitness. And what are you doing? You're doing site selection, location, diligence, development.
I ended up being director of real estate during my time at LA Fitness, but it was basically a southeast regional, with a little bit more than that, Ohio, Minnesota, that kind of thing. And
did you have any real estate experience at that point?
None outside of outside of my in-laws.
Your in-laws, and you spent 5 minutes at the brokerage firm.
5 minutes at a brokerage firm, and then Bill Horner, for whatever reason, said, I want to take a chance on that guy. I'm forever grateful.
Okay.
So yeah, we were looking for basically sites to do gyms, right? And I was there for roughly, altogether, I was there for about 7 years.
That's a significant stint.
Yeah. And then I ended up going to Tesla right after that.
So LA Fitness for 7 years is a big deal. You're finding sites. Are you developing ground up, or are you with existing boxes?
Yeah, we did a mix. It was a lot of reverse build-to-suits.
Right.
And so we, basically the landlord would give us the money to do the build out
Sure.
for his building. But we did a lot of retrofits too.
We do all the work. We create the value. We're giving you a long-term lease. Right. Now go out and finance
we
it.
kind of like that because control your own destiny type.
So after 7 years, you're saying, I'm looking for my next move.
Yeah.
And was it Tesla EV specifically, or was it real estate?
No, it was real estate.
Okay.
So whenever I got there, I was doing what are known as sales service delivery centers for the most part. Basically you go and you either buy a car, or you get your car service there.
Right.
There were some other uses I was doing too, but then I think the thing that changed is my territory expanded, where I got Texas too, started doing a lot of ancillary uses for Gigafactory Austin. And then all within that, there was a Elon project that came down called the Tesla Diner, but it was put under the charging organization because it had,
I think it's the first deal we worked on together.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
totally.
What's this diner, right?
I know.
Elon had an idea one night. He's like, there's going to be a cool diner. We're going to serve burgers. You're going to charge your car.
That's right. And there was a tweet.
That was the first one that we did here. I think it was on Santa Monica.
That's right.
So that's when you got looped into
the charging org because they, for whatever reason, charging, as we'll talk about more, is a real estate play, but they didn't have anybody that was doing real estate specifically in their org. And so they asked me to help. And I said, of course, I'd love to do this. And so long story short, as that project gets done, they decide they want to lean into that strategy, a little bit more of traditional real estate, not necessarily diner. And so they asked me to come over and lead North America for real estate and charging.
And the idea of having a charging org without a real estate person there is kind of a wild thing, right?
You
need all this real estate, but
they
had to plug you in.
Yeah. And, in hindsight, but at the same time, a lot of the deals you do in EV charging are for existing parking, and you're just basically placing chargers on them. But you are leasing land.
Of course.
And you are leasing space. You just don't have a brick and mortar element.
Right.
And so my argument in ICSC, which I know we'll talk about later, recognizes us as a retailer, and I think it's right.
That's really interesting. Tesla is a retailer.
EVgo.
EVgo is a retailer.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
So you're at Tesla, and you go from 0 to 60 or 0 to 90, in Tesla's case, whatever it is. And what's your mandate? All of a sudden, I just remember something crazy coming down, like we need to do, I don't want to exaggerate, it was thousands of chargers, like in a very short amount of time. What was the mandate at the time?
Yeah, it was, numbers specifically probably can't share, but I can tell you it was a lot.
Right.
And, the way that we were looking at it from Tesla's perspective is that we have a team that basically goes out there and does the existing parking for charging stalls, and then there are certain sites where we need a lot more at one time. So that's where the more traditional real estate plays came in.
I feel like you built that whole infrastructure. In terms of the system, how do we think about site selection? How do we think about utilization? How do we think about monetization? I think of Tesla at the time as being best in class at this. They were deploying resources, and they just were trying to blanket the country with charging in a way that I think nobody was coming close at the time.
Yes.
And you were at the forefront of all of that.
It was a great time. I really appreciated my time there.
What is Tesla like? Again, I will share this. I think Tesla's a world-class company, literally a world-class company.
Totally.
You're in there, you're given these mandates. Describe the environment.
It was very, very fast.
Yeah.
But it was also very motivating. I mean, the thing about Tesla that I really loved, and I didn't know if I'd find this anywhere else, which thankfully I did, but a lot of motivated people who are high performers who aren't necessarily trying to climb over each other's backs to get some kind of self-centered.
That's an amazing group of people there.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they create that in the ecosystem, because usually when you're surrounded by a bunch of high performers, it could be your law school class or any other company, their whole business is to kind of outdo one another.
Yeah.
When everyone's going super fast and working towards a common goal, all of that kind of falls to the wayside,
well, the drama
which is
can't
awesome.
Stay around because
there's no time.
You literally can't do it. Yeah, exactly.
Like, we haven't slept, right?
Exactly.
There's no time for that. But I think that is universally the experience. Really, really smart people, really talented, putting their heads down and achieving what you did not think was possible.
Yeah.
Literally, I mean, if you just said, this is not possible in this time frame, but you can really pull that off.
Yeah.
April 30, 2024.
Yes.
This is not private information,
Yeah.
right? Widely disseminated. We woke up the next day and there's no secret that Tesla had disbanded its entire supercharging team.
Yeah.
Our heads were spinning.
Yeah.
What was it like on the inside?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I probably can't go into too much of it, but I can tell you that it wasn't the most pleasant day afterward. We had a lot of things that we were working on, and to kind of get that notice was not the most pleasant thing.
Sure.
But the thing about Tesla people, in large part, is that we're pretty resilient at the end of the day. So even something like that, in a lot of ways, I look back on it in a weird way. I kind of appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It's helped me develop in ways that I didn't know I needed to be developed. And
everyone that I've worked with at Tesla are superstars.
Yeah.
Literally, you almost have to be by definition if you're going to do really hard things for extended periods of time. And so we saw the disbanding of that group, and they went out and spawned all these new businesses and all these new companies. It was crazy. Imagine having this ecosystem of the smartest people in the country, in the world on a particular topic and saying, okay, now go out. And we saw all of these companies, I won't name them, but we stayed very close with all of them. And those are now at the forefront of the entire EV movement, right? That was the brain trust. And now it just went all across the country. That was an incredible thing to observe.
Yeah. It really was. Probably once a week, I'm talking to either a former or a current, employee that was there and doing their own thing now, or still at Tesla and having a great time. So ultimately, it worked out for the best.
For sure, always.
Yeah.
And then you go to Hyperfuel.
Yes.
What was the Hyperfuel business model roughly?
Yeah, it was EV charging, still is. And while I was there, I was VP of Network Development and Real Estate. So, I was talking earlier about the two columns where you kind of get site acquisition.
Sure.
It's either existing stalls and you place chargers on them, or you do more traditional real estate plays. And a lot of my time there was focused on the existing stalls. And
then you get the call from EVgo.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
you're like, I'm just getting settled here. What's going on? And but it was compelling.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the more we talked, the more I was listening. And EVgo's in a very unique situation, in my opinion, to where there's a lot of need out there for EV charging. I would say even if development for vehicles, like new EV vehicles, stopped today, and there wasn't another one sold,
absolutely,
for fast charging in particular, there's probably about another 5 to 6 times need around the U.S.
6x what we currently have, just to support the existing EVs if all EV makers stopped producing today. And that makes sense. Like when I drive around, almost universally, there are lines waiting to charge.
Yeah.
And so it always seemed to me like that was low-hanging fruit, right? I'm a former EV guy. I went back to combustion. Don't kill me. I'll probably go back to EV. But I considered EVgo a leader in the space. Certainly today, we're seeing a lot of consolidation. I mean, there's so many companies that were spawned over the last decade. There's going to be consolidation. That's just the nature of the industry. What are you seeing in the marketplace right now with just everybody had an idea, everybody had a niche, everybody had a way of driving traffic to your center. What are you seeing amongst the EV players that are out there right now?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's no secret. Some of the incentives got taken recently, and I'll use the term CPO, and for your audience, I'll use it a lot, but it means basically charge point operator, which is an EV charging company, is a way to think of it. Unfortunately, there were a lot of CPOs that were making their business model around the incentives that the government was giving them.
Sure.
And so you're seeing some consolidation from that end. You've got some consolidation on others that they looked at it and they said, you know what? This is not that difficult. I can get into it. And then they realized it wasn't the same as putting an air pressure machine at a gas station. So you're seeing that too. But I think a lot of them, and I talked to, we'll maybe get into ICSC in a little bit, talked to a lot of retail landlords and retailers for that matter, some of the bigger ones. And I think what I'm finding in the industry is that some of them are starting to catch on, but a lot of them unfortunately look at it as the half equation whenever it comes to selecting the right CPO.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that they look at it and they say, does this company have enough capital to install a charger at my site?
Yeah.
And then can they open day one? And they stop
That's the end of the analysis,
right?
Right.
And the problem with that is like, great, they can do it for day one, but like what happens year 7, 8, and 9, or even further into a
And many
lease?
can't do it day one. I'll tell you, first of all, it's complicated.
Yeah.
The technology is complicated, implementation, monetizing the site, it's all hard.
It is.
And I think that you're exactly right. I still get calls to this day saying, hey, I'm looking at this statewide incentive, and this is our business plan, and I'm listening, and I'm saying, it's way harder than you think it is.
Yeah.
And you almost know that these groups are not going to necessarily launch.
Yeah, yeah.
But you raise a really interesting point. If you're a landlord, I know that landlords have gotten pitched by countless
Everybody.
no-name operators as though, like you said, like it's an air pump,
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
If you're a landlord, how do you think you're distinguishing between who's real and who's not?
The key piece there that most people don't look at is the utilization of the sites. And what I mean by that is, what is the company's business model?
Interesting.
Is it trying to sell you maintenance agreements? Is it trying to sell you chargers? What is that business model? And if you're an own and operator and you're not basing your business model on utilization as the primary means, you're probably going to run into trouble.
What do you mean maintenance agreements? What's getting maintained there?
Basically, if you have chargers that I would sell you, say, okay, well, I'll sell them to you, but I can also sell you this little package, and you don't have to worry about
the warranty package.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And you talk about utilization.
Yeah.
So are you saying that if the operator doesn't have a plan to drive utilization of the site, okay, so if you're a landlord and you're getting pitched on this, what do you want to hear from a service provider?
What their utilization is from a third-party data source. And there's one, and it's public. It's called Paren.
Paren.
Paren, P-A-R-E-N. And they're a third party that basically accumulates data and aggregates
and
it.
They'll tell you how many sites are being utilized. And so this operator would have to say,
they'll even look at the CPO and say, what's the overall utilization for
of
the
the CPO
of all the sites in aggregate?
Right.
And as it currently stands, there are only 3 that have around 20%. When I say utilization, I mean how much is that site being utilized on a 24-hour cycle? There are only 3 that have like around a 20%. Everybody else is 5% and below.
Right.
And some of these are like at 2%. And a lot of that has to do with the site selection itself. Like, are you trying to put these to where there's actually a need? Are you looking at, how many single family homes are there here that are, middle or higher incomes that are likely going to have their own wall charger?
Right.
Are you putting one in dense metropolitan Dallas uptown off of Knox Henderson? Or are you putting it in, like
rural
Abilene, Kansas or something like that? So that's a big part of it. The other part of it is, what is that customer experience at the end of the day? Are they able to get to the site? Are they able to use the charger easily and not be presented with a ton of error messages?
I'm laughing because I've been that guy standing at 1 a.m. at a Walmart parking lot, and I'm like, just take my credit card. I should be able to tap this and charge my car. And I need a login and a password and a reset. And I'm like, this is impossible. Why do you need to download all of my metadata? You don't need my cookies. You don't need anything. Just give me the power, right? And I couldn't get it. And that was so surprising that the platforms yet are not just super user-friendly the way that almost everything else is. Why is that? Why are we not there yet where I can tap a credit card and charge my car?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, a lot of different CPOs, us included, that's one of the big things that we focus in on is how do we make it easy for that charge? We want to take all the friction out as much as possible.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we have is very similar to Tesla's setup, to where, you've driven a Tesla, you go to a charger, you plug it in, take it out, you're done. We have a thing called Auto Charge Plus that allows that same basic thing. Ultimately, we want people to live in our app.
Sure.
But the reality of it is not everybody wants to do that. So we try to make it to where the opportunity
I get it. The data is super valuable, right? Where I shop is valuable. Where I drove is valuable. I just want to charge my car.
Yeah,
I think that the charging provider that really just focuses, imagine in Amazon, right? Like the way that Jeff Bezos focused, like just the customer experience, just whatever makes the customer experience perfect, we're just going to focus on that. Instead of like, I'm trying to extrapolate all of this, code. I think you guys will really win.
You're hitting on something too. You were asking me about why, the different challenges with the CPOs, and, utilization, how to drive it, you're nailing it. I mean, focusing in on that customer and that customer experience and making sure that they're at the top of your mind instead of what's in my needs.
That's every business. That's every business focuses on the customer. It's paramount. And again, just standing there in the middle of the night trying to charge, I was like, people have invested billions of dollars in this technology, and they're missing the most fundamental part of the process. And the units are still insanely expensive. I know this because I've looked at them for different sites, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm like, why? Why? I mean, if the technology is like ubiquitous at this point, it's everywhere, why has the cost not come down dramatically so that chargers are everywhere and they're super easy to use?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the full answer to that, but I mean, it is expensive to get EV charging in the ground. You know, you're looking at an average site, it's probably about $1 million all in to get an EV charging station with,
there's no underground storage tanks, right? It's not like a gas station. You should plug it in into the utility. Exactly. But even that's not easy, right? I've seen some different providers have to come up with new technology because they can't get power. We've done deals where here's a solar field that's going to power this site because the utility is too far away, or they don't have capacity, or it's too expensive. Do you find yourself bumping into problems with the grid? You're like, I really want to be in this market, but the utility provider is just going to be too much brain damage.
There is some of that. For us, I can only speak to us. We actually have a lot of good relationships with the utility providers. In fact, a lot of our department, our utility, we call it grid, came from these same
in-house. That helps.
Yeah, well, they're in-house. They used to be in-house at the utility providers too, so that helps. So site selection, right? The problem that we're facing right now is an industry really, is that you can go to this certain intersection you're going to want to be at, and if you're there first, there's a good chance, not always, but there's a good chance that the utilities to go to the other side are now increased by like $1 to $2 million because of the run and the lack of capacity that you have at that particular intersection.
Wait, if you choose a site, you're making it more expensive for somebody across the street?
Potentially, not always.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, so you're just creating demand for the power in that location, right?
Yep.
And another approach to this whole business that I've seen over the years is we have the secret sauce of knowing where power is available so that we can go and implement and roll out sites faster than anyone. And oh my God, I really feel like that's a short-term advantage. That technology, you know, information is everywhere. I don't know that you can hold on to that indefinitely and make that the crux of your business model. Are you seeing that as being a competitive advantage in terms of we know where the power's at and you don't?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I think a lot of the CPOs now, outside of some of the startup types that you mentioned that are just kind of getting in the industry, I think the more mature ones kind of understand that whenever you pick a site, the next thing you should do is verify power and what it's going to take to get the utilities there.
I almost go backwards. I'm like, where can I get power first, and then see if there's any sites that I want?
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit
the
backwards.
problem with that approach is that, again, it's about customer experience. And you want to be where the people are.
Yeah, there's power where nobody wants it.
You can go in like, you know, parts of West Texas where you know, I'm a Texan now.
Plenty of power.
Plenty of power out that way, but you got no
demand,
no EV.
Yeah.
So it's all a balance.
When you said that the incentives were going away, you're referring to incentives for the EVs or incentives for the providers?
So both. There was one incentive. It was $7,500 to purchase EVs. So you look at it from both ways. You got the EVs themselves, and then you got the charging incentives. With charging, you had the NEVI incentives, which were allowing more development in certain areas. Both of those are going away. And, you know, I think not too long ago, the industry as a whole was able to get a lot of sales there in a very short amount of time because everybody knew those incentives were going to go away. And then on the EV charging side, you know, it's one thing to go after them if you have it available, but that's not driving your site selection and that's not driving your overall willingness to go to wherever it is. And that's one thing. It's another thing to say, I'm going to go to this site. I'm going to only go to the site because I'm going to get paid from the federal government for it. And I feel like the latter is not a winning model.
Tell me about the business of EV for a minute. So you want to be where the customer is.
Yeah.
Usually that means infill, which is more expensive real estate.
Yep.
But isn't there a ceiling to how much you can charge for power, right? You're going to bump into, I can't charge, $3 per kilowatt or whatever it is. At a certain point, it doesn't work if you go super infill.
Well, it's like every other industry. I mean,
right.
The competition is going to kind of drive price in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it's no different for EV charging. You can't go out there and say,
I wonder how far you could push, right? If you were in a super prime market and people they're probably charging at home at that point. So that's really the balance. I think so much of your business are multifamily housing or office areas or things like that where people don't have access to their own charging.
That's right. And where they're coming, like if you're in a suburb in Dallas, but you're coming into Dallas every day, and you know that either you can sit at an EV charging station, get a full charge, or you can go sit in traffic. Yeah. There are people that will do that. And even better, by the way, if you got amenities at that site, because not only can you get your charge, you can go get your coffee, you could maybe do your grocery run, and then you can go home with 2 birds, maybe 3.
Is EVgo doing any of that with the amenities? So tell me about your business model and kind of what you're looking to roll out.
Yeah. So amenities are key for EV charging. It's always about what you can do in addition to charging.
Right.
And I know you were an EV owner at one point. Yeah. I'm currently one. I know that if I need a charge and there's a charger, but closer to me, but I still have to go another maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah. But then there's a Whole Foods or whatever. Sure. I'm going to go that extra 10 minutes because I can get 2 things done in that same amount of time.
That also speaks to speed, by the way.
Yeah.
Because it takes a long time. You're looking for something else to do.
Yeah.
There's a universe where this is a 5-minute process, like it is filling up your car, and then you don't need those amenities anymore, right?
Presumably.
I think we'll get there for sure. It's just a question of time and infrastructure. Yeah. Think about how much we've already cut down the charging time.
Yeah.
It's like a dial-up modem versus what we are today.
Totally.
So you were saying EVgo, what's the plan there? Where do you guys want to be? Who are you guys trying to do deals with? Don't share anything that's not already public, obviously.
Yeah.
But curious about what is attractive to you guys on the market right now.
Yeah, it's a big retail focus, right? Because of that amenity conversation. And we're doing deals, and I'm not going to name names, but doing deals with the largest REITs and the largest retailers in the U.S. And a lot of that is, again, just driven by where do our customers want to be?
Right.
I don't want to be, like as an EV owner, I don't want to be out in the outskirts of,
And I don't think this is confidential or proprietary. What does that business deal look like? Is it a lease? Is it a rev share? What are you seeing primarily? How's the industry shifting in terms of the economic structure with a landlord and a provider?
Back in the day, they were called 0-0 deals. Like, you basically went in there, you paid 0, the landlord paid you 0, and the incentive for the landlord was the promise that they would actually drive people into stores. Some saw that. I hear a lot more that it didn't happen. A lot of reasons for that, but that was back in the day. Now I think the industry's landed a lot more, and when I say this, I'm not talking about ground leases and acquisitions. That's a separate bucket. But on the existing stalls, the industry's pretty much landed on essentially a gross lease for dollars per stall per month.
Right. That's a fixed amount, no rev share.
That's right.
You guys pay the utility cost.
That's right.
And you're taking a chance.
Yeah. And then, I can speak for us. I know there are other own and operate CPOs out there. We've made it to where we do everything soup to nuts. We're not looking to the landlord for anything other than let's get through this lease.
Sure.
And maybe some consents.
So I'll ask you a little bit of a hard question.
Yeah.
Who are your main competitors right now?
Yeah. The main ones are the obvious ones, Tesla.
Yeah.
Electrify America.
Yep.
There's a company called Ayana that's making some noise.
Okay.
And I should say, too, at the outset, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing for the industry.
I agree.
I want it to be where there are 4 or 5 really strong players.
Yeah.
And the more, frankly, the merrier in a lot of ways. And if we have that, it brings more legitimacy to the industry.
I agree.
It brings more competition, which always makes all of us better, instead of it just being a monopoly type thing.
Yeah, but it also educates the market. When it becomes so common, it just educates the market.
Yeah, exactly. We'll go to an ICSC and we talk about square footage and CAM. Everybody kind of knows what we're...
If you can talk about EV the way that you talk about square footage and CAMs, it's, just universal. people are going to be more open to doing those deals.
That's right.
Let's talk about ICSC.
Yeah.
You've been involved for a while. I've been involved for a while, but you've leaned in heavily over the last year.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're doing at ICSC right now.
Sure. And I'll say from the outset, I mean, ICSC, I'll go back to Bill Horner. Whenever I got that job at LA Fitness, I walked into Bill Horner's office on the first day, and he goes, Lane, here's a book I want you to read, and also go register for ICSC. It'll be one of the best decisions you ever made in your life. So I took his advice,
What's
obviously.
the book?
It was a book, I'll get you the title, but it was basically a book about the gym industry and how it's changed in the view of retailers.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother episode.
I geek out on that business. Do you know Alex Hormozy? Do you ever watch any of his stuff?
Yeah, totally.
His whole startup was Gym Launch, and he was a gym owner and he cracked it and hacked how do you drive business to gyms and just completely killed it ever since. So I love his content on business in general. So you get the book and you get ICSC, and that was your intro.
My intro, and I guess the punchline to that is he was exactly right. And from that time on, whether I've been at Tesla or whether I've been at Hyperfuel or EVgo, I always found a way to stay super connected to ICSC, even if it wasn't, readily apparent that would be a good for the company, because I knew it was.
Yeah. Initially, that looks like attending conferences.
Yeah, initially it's, ICSC, so it's the largest retail real estate trade organization in the world. A lot of what they're known for are these large conferences where you're basically doing deal making, right? You go and you have, I call it the deal making speed dating. Where you go 30 minutes here, you go to the next one, you go to the next one, and then
I haven't missed one except during COVID, and you get your 20,000 steps every day, and there's no substitute for it, right? You see everyone's under one roof, and the whole energy in the room is all about deal making. So I definitely try not to miss it. So you're starting, you go to conferences, you're building relationships, and then there's these leadership opportunities. Talk about that.
Recently, I became the co-chair of government relations for Texas. I became a member of the PAC Management Committee, which you're on as well. And then I became a member of the Environmental and Land Use Policy Committee and also the ESG Committee. So all of these have to do with helping the industry on the more legislative type issues that come up in potentially hurt us in the long run. And it's not, the thing I like about it too is that, EV charging is a part of it, but it's the whole industry. It's, we're advocating for the Targets, for the Kimcos, like everybody all at once. And
it's everyone. And it's something that we've talked about before is this idea that I think for me as a real estate lawyer and seeing lots of different operators in the space, COVID was transformative, where I saw so many policies coming out of either state capitals, local jurisdictions that were decimating real estate value. It was crazy. And I said, there are billions and hundreds of billions of dollars of value here. Who is stepping up and speaking for these interests? And I felt like landlords were being really, really timid. They're like, oh, we're the big bad landlord. We can't raise our hand and advocate for our interests. I was like, that's crazy. When you implement a policy which hurts communities, you're hurting real estate. When you hurt real estate, you're hurting communities. If you hurt schools and retail, you're hurting businesses. Everything is real estate centric. And so many of the policies that came out of that era, whether it's about, and these are controversial topics, it could be about crime or homelessness or drug use or any of these things, those are not just about helping big bad landlords. That is about helping your communities.
Exactly.
All of these small businesses shut down. If you go to downtown Los Angeles right now, we are still recovering from those policies. And it seemed to me that we need more ICSCs out there in Washington, in state capitals, advocating for the interests, because it's not like landlords are trying to put more money in their pocket. We're trying to save communities.
Yeah, exactly right.
I think we need to do a lot more in that regard to support those interests.
To your point, like if you're getting into the economics of it all, retail drives a large part of the tax revenue that comes in to a state or the nation. And to your point, if you're wanting to advocate for communities, that's a great way to do it.
When I walk around at ICSC, which will happen in a few weeks now, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people there they all benefit from ICSC. And this is not an ICSC pitch, but everybody ought to be supporting the organizations that literally drive their industry. So brokers and owners and developers and all these service providers, you need representation in the bodies of government. Otherwise, left to its own devices, we've seen how policies can really decimate an entire industry.
Yeah, I think that is part of the problem is that, we have all these ICSC members and they just don't frankly know about the issues, right? Like a developer not necessarily knowing how this potential bill is going through Congress is going to affect them on issues such as PFAS, right?
I think that ICSC and others need better marketing.
Yeah.
The members are not educated to all the work that's being done that directly benefits them. If there was, video or content or whatever else, here's how ICSC benefits you, or here's how this organization, there are others out there, I won't mention them, but all of these groups should be notifying, informing their members, these groups, all the work that they're doing and how they're directly benefiting from it.
Yeah, they do a great job, the ICSC employees and the people who actually lead up all these different committees and initiatives that I mentioned. But you always do need more people that become aware of that stuff. And I think a lot of people do just think of ICSC as a deal-making
conference.
It's like I'm going to get out there and I'm going to, kind of get mine.
It's important to know the work that's being done and to support that. But
that's right.
You recently came back from Washington, D.C.
That's right.
What were you doing out there?
So doing the same thing, advocating for the industry on Capitol Hill, meeting with congressmen and senators.
That's awesome.
And their legislative directors and aides and trying to be a voice.
What kind of policy initiatives would you say ICSC is lobbying for, and kind of what helps commercial real estate in general in D.C.?
Yeah, one of the big ones right now is the organized retail crime bill. Thankfully, it's a very bipartisan bill.
Yeah, it should be.
It's got about 200 co-sponsors for it already, and that one seems to be making its way through. Another one, the one that frankly scares me a little bit, is the PFAS issue. And you're familiar with PFAS, the forever chemicals.
Talk about that,
Yeah, so basically a lot of, Teflon and car washes back in the day, and even firemen that used it with the foam contained PFAS. And the problem right now is that if there is not even parts per billion, parts per trillion are found at a site, you could have a serious remediation problem. And as you know,
you can't find it. Where is it? It's parts per trillion.
So in the development world, that's a line on a pro forma that could totally blow up a deal.
Yeah, or it's risk that prevents you from doing the deal to begin with.
Exactly.
Environmental risk, environmental costs, and those are super important. But I think there's got to be a balance there where it's not hindering deal making as well. Yeah. So what did you find was the appetite in DC as you were raising these issues?
Surprisingly positive. I think a lot of them, it was the first time they were hearing about some of the things that we were doing. The other one I should have mentioned was adaptive reuse.
Okay.
So redeveloping downtown areas and some brownfield sites. And there was another issue about...
So people might wonder, how do you do that at the federal level when it's such a local issue?
You go to your state reps and talk about it.
You go to your state reps, but the idea is that federal law would override anything at the state and the local level?
If it's a federal bill that's going through that could affect it, that's where you attack it. If it's more state, then you go to the state house and try to do it there.
Yeah. So what is in store for Lane Chaplin over the next 5 years?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're just getting warmed up. We're just getting started.
I am really, really happy where I am.
Yeah.
I think we've got a lot of work to do, and we could do it in a short amount of time. And it's very exciting to be there at a company like EVgo, where we're arguably on the front lines of this for fast charging as a whole for the U.S. So 5 years is a long time. I know what my 5-year plan is. I knew what my 5-year plan was a few years ago too.
Keeps changing.
It changed a little bit.
Well, congratulations. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome.
Yeah.